Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining VCU Libraries today for our Communicating COVID Part 2 Vaccines panel discussion, a continuation of our discussion about COVID-19 from a few months ago. Today's panel will focus on questions we all have about the COVID-19 vaccines. I am Dana Ladd, an associate professor at VCU Libraries, and I am the health and wellness librarian at the VCU Medical Center Health and Wellness Library. I also want to introduce you to my co-moderator, Oscar Keys. Keys is the multimedia teaching and learning librarian at VCU Libraries. He is working behind the scenes, making sure everything runs smoothly today so that you can view our panel discussion. So thank you, Keys. And thank you to our panelists for agreeing to participate today in this very important conversation. Before we get started with the discussion, I want to introduce you to our two panelists, Natalie Pennywell and Dr. Jeanine Guidry. Ms. Pennywell received her Bachelor of Science degree in Biology and Chemistry from Voorhees College in 2006, and her Master of Public Health and Health Promotion, Education and Behavior from the University of South Carolina. She holds certifications as a Certified Health Education Specialist and a Consumer Health Information Specialist. She currently works at Virginia Commonwealth University as the Director for the VCU Health Hub at 25th in the East End of Richmond, Virginia. And originally from the Netherlands, Dr. Jeanine Guidry is an assistant professor at VCU Richard T. Robertson School of Media and Culture, as well as the director of the Media and Health Lab. She received her Ph.D. in Social and Behavioral Sciences from the Department of Health, Behavior, and Policy in the School of Medicine at VCU. Her MS in Health Sciences from Maastricht University in the Netherlands, and her MPS in Strategic Public Relations from George Washington University. So Natalie and Jeanine, thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to go ahead and get started with our questions and discussions. So at the Health and Wellness Library, we provide health information to patients, their family members, and the community, and we offer regular health and wellness programming and outreach to the local community. Lately, there have been a lot of questions from the public at the library about vaccines. One of the questions that I've been asked about the most lately are questions around the safety of the vaccine. So we're going to start by jumping in to those questions around vaccine safety. So many think that the vaccine was created quickly and wonder about its safety. So can you talk to us a little bit about the safety of the COVID-19 vaccines?
Sure. Keys, could you give slide number 3? So this vaccine, the vaccines that so far have been authorized have been developed really quickly. Usually a vaccine takes between 5 to 10 years to develop. And so it makes sense that people have questions about this, but it's really important to know that number one, no corners in the research, the studies of these vaccines were cut. There's 3 main reasons why we were able to get this vaccine so quickly. Number one, researchers were really able to lean onto previous research. There's been a lot of research into coronaviruses. COVID-19 is caused by a novel coronavirus, a new coronavirus, but coronaviruses have been around for a while, and the research into these viruses has really helped us get a head start on developing a vaccine for this one. Another thing that happened is that vaccines for COVID-19 have been developed and are being developed, because we're still developing new vaccines, and tested at the same time. So instead of developing the vaccine, then moving on to the next stage, and because of the unprecedented financial support and logistical support by governments worldwide, by pharmaceutical companies, by academic institutions, we were able to to develop things in parallel, and being willing to say, if a vaccine doesn't pan out, then it's still worth that we put the money into it. And so therefore, we've been able to develop these vaccines a lot quicker. But the safety part is really due to the testing, the clinical trial testing, and that has been done exactly the way it's supposed to, with large numbers of people, and no corners have been cut. And so this is why we're really dealing with a miracle of right now 3 vaccines being authorized in the United States, and hopefully more following.
Oh, great. Well, thanks, Jeanine. Also, I've been hearing a lot of questions and rumors circulating about the COVID vaccine that many think that the vaccine will cause them to get COVID. Can you talk a little bit about if the vaccine will cause someone to get COVID-19?
Absolutely. Slide 4, please. That's a really simple answer. No, it's not possible, because there is no live virus present in the COVID vaccine. And so the only reason that there would be any chance of you getting COVID from a vaccine is if there was actual part of the coronavirus in that vaccine. There's nothing of the coronavirus actually in this vaccine. What these vaccines do is they teach your body how to recognize the virus and then how to fight it. They basically give your body a crash course into when you see this thing, do this. That's what it does. And so no, there is no way you can get COVID from the COVID vaccine. Now, what you can get, and I think this is this related to the next question that's on this slide, is when you get one of these vaccines, a lot of people get minor side effects. Your arm can get sore. I got my first Moderna vaccine about a week ago, and my arm got sore, and I got really tired and had a headache, and I felt a little bit like I was just not coming down with something. But that's not a sign that I was coming down with COVID. That's a sign that my immune system was being trained. And so I think sometimes people look at that and they think, wait, I'm actually getting the disease. That's not the case at all.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. So yeah, those are the side effects that we can expect and look out for after we do get the vaccine.
And let me add to that, that those side effects, if you get them, see it as something that's encouraging. Your immune system is working, it's responding. And number 2, the side effects, they're mild, they go away. In my case, they went away very quickly. And think too about what this vaccine is going to protect you from. It protects you from COVID-19, where we've lost more than 500,000 people in the US alone, and more than, I believe, 2.5 million people worldwide. So this is this vaccine. These vaccines are, as far as I'm concerned, they're pretty close to medical miracles. There's very few serious side effects that we've seen. I think we've seen 2.5 on every million people who've been vaccinated. There's been a little bit more serious side effect, and a side effect that had been, again, easily then fixed. So these are safe vaccines, and they're very they work really well.
Yeah, great. And another a bit of misinformation that has been circulating on Facebook, social media, and I've been hearing a lot, and also patients have been asking about at the library, is does the vaccine change someone's DNA?
Slide 5, please. Again, this is an understandable question. The two of the vaccines that were authorized first, Pfizer and the Moderna vaccine, they're both mRNA vaccines. And mRNA sounds a little bit like DNA, and so it's understandable that people have questions about that. But the mRNA vaccines do not interact with your DNA at all. Again, they teach your immune system how to recognize and fight the virus. They do not touch your DNA at all. And so you can be absolutely secure in that. All they really, again, do, the way I like to explain it to people, is they teach your body, your immune system, to recognize the virus that causes COVID and what to do when they encounter it.
And also, I wanted to ask you about infertility associated with the vaccine. Does the COVID-19 vaccines cause infertility in people?
No, fortunately, it doesn't. There's zero evidence of this. And unfortunately, we're seeing some memes going around on social media that are pretty scary when you read them. There's no basis in reality for that. The COVID vaccine does not cause infertility. Um, a lot of times people ask the question, if I'm pregnant, can I get the vaccine? And while these vaccines weren't specifically tested on women who are pregnant, they were tested on women that were pregnant. In other words, that wasn't a specific group that was focused on, but they were tested on pregnant women. The first thing I would recommend is talk to your OBGYN if you have questions about this. But everything we see right now is that the vaccine is safe for pregnant women to protect them and their unborn baby during their pregnancy.
Well, thanks, Jeanine, for covering those safety aspects of the vaccine. As we can see, the vaccine, it is very safe to take. So we're going to shift gears and talk a little bit more about the COVID-19 vaccine in general, so people can learn a little bit more about why they need to be vaccinated against COVID. So Jeanine, if you could talk to us a little bit about why people need to even get the vaccine.
Sure. Slide 6, please. I think the first thing to realize is that COVID-19 is a serious disease. Yes, not everybody who gets COVID-19 gets seriously ill, but sufficient numbers of people get seriously ill. Again, we have lost more than 500,000 people in the United States within a year of the pandemic breaking out. And what we need to do, and it's not just people dying, it's also people who survive but who have long-term effects. We now have something we call long COVID, and it's long-term effects of people who recover but who have consequences of COVID, physical consequences of COVID, 6, 8, 9 months after they officially recover from getting the virus. And so I think this vaccine, this is our chance to reach what we call herd immunity. Now, there's been a lot of discussion about reaching herd immunity through exposure. There've been people around who've been saying, well, if we just get everybody exposed, then we're going to be good. Yes, you can reach herd immunity through exposure, but you're also going to lose upwards of 1 million more people. And I think that's sometimes what we forget, is that comes at a tremendous cost. Herd immunity means, if you see, and actually, could you bring the slide back up? Because there's a pretty graphic on there on, yeah. Herd immunity means that there are not enough, there's not enough people who are not protected against the disease to be infected. So if someone is infected and everybody around them is immune, then the disease can't go anywhere. The virus can't go anywhere. That's what herd immunity means. You can reach that technically through exposure, but we don't want to do that. Fortunately, we can reach herd immunity through vaccination. And so that is what we want to do. And on the left hand of this graphic, you see if you have someone who is people who have not been exposed, and there's a few people who are infected with the novel coronavirus. And if you just let that go its own way, you see that in picture number 2, almost everybody is infected. And yes, a whole lot of people are going to survive that, but there's also a lot of people who won't. And then you see slowly, as more people come in this population who are actually immune, the virus has no place to go. And that's what we want. We want a place to, is the coronavirus going to go away, this novel coronavirus? Probably not. We don't know for sure. Viruses do die out, but we're not entirely sure how this is going to go. But if enough of us are immune, then we're going to protect the few people who cannot get the vaccine. So that's really why you hear a lot of talking about, we want to go back to normal. Like, we just had the first anniversary of the pandemic. When can we go back to normal? When can we celebrate holidays together? When can we go out for dinner? When can we hug grandma? When can we do away with this fear that we've been living with? The route out of that is getting vaccinated. That is what's going to get us to the other side of this.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, thanks, Jeanine, for describing that and describing herd immunity and how that can get us back to normal. So talk to us a little bit about, we've been hearing about the Pfizer and the Moderna and vaccines. Can you tell us a little bit about the vaccine options that are available at this time and how each of them work?
So there's on slide number 7, there's a really wonderful infographic that VCU Health put together. And it basically describes there are 3 types of vaccines that have been authorized for COVID-19 in the US right now. There's many more that are under development. But of those 3 vaccines, there's really 2 types. Number 1, Pfizer and Moderna. Those were authorized earliest in, I believe, December, early to mid-December. And what's unique about them, those are both mRNA vaccines. So they are the vaccines that sound a little bit like they could be associated with your DNA, but they're not. They both require 2 doses. So for one of the vaccines, you have to get the vaccine 3 weeks later. For Pfizer, you should get the second dose. So it's sort of a booster. And for Moderna, it's 4 weeks later. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine is a single dose vaccine. And it works a little bit differently, but here's the most amazing thing. I get the question all the time, which vaccine should I get? Which should I choose? Well, there's 2 things. You likely won't be able to choose a vaccine, at least not right now. And so the vaccine to get is the one that you can get. Get protected as early as you can, as quickly as you can, because what all these vaccines do equally well is they protect you from dying from COVID and from being hospitalized from COVID and from getting so sick of COVID that you have major health consequences. Everything under that, they may slightly differ, but what we really need to make sure is that people are not dying anymore of this disease, that people are not getting seriously ill. And the beautiful thing is that all 3 of these vaccines do a remarkable job at that. So they work a little bit different. For 2 of them, you have to get a second shot. But whichever vaccine you have the opportunity to get right now, just get it. Don't wait for another vaccine to come out. Just get protected, because you're not just protecting you, you're protecting your family, you're protecting your children. Your children will not be able to be vaccinated anytime immediately right now. You're protecting people who for some reason can't get the vaccine. And so get the vaccine that you're eligible for.
Yeah, that's great advice. Get the one that you can get. And talk a little bit more, Jeanine. I hear a lot of people, they only want to get one vaccine. They don't want to go back to get the second one. Or can you talk to us a little bit about why the 2 vaccines are needed for the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccine? And people have asked, can they get just one or do they need both? Can you
Nope,
talk a
you
little
don't
bit?
just get one. So if the vaccine comes in 2 doses, get the 2 doses. The Johnson & Johnson on one side and the Pfizer and Moderna just work a little bit differently. They're designed a little bit differently, and their levels of efficacy at the lower levels are a little bit differently. All 3 of them work equally well to protect you from the things we really want you to protect you from. But Pfizer and Moderna were designed for a reason with 2 doses. The first doses exposes you, it teaches your system to recognize these things. The second dose is kind of like a reminder for your immune system. Johnson & Johnson worked with 1 dose. So whichever you get, whichever the system will tell you, VDH will tell you you're eligible for, hey, we have doses that are available right now for Johnson & Johnson, go get Johnson & Johnson. But if VDH and the system tells you you can get Pfizer tomorrow or in 2 days, please go get the Pfizer vaccine and 3 weeks later go back. It may be a minor inconvenience, but it is just a trip to one location. Just come back, but please make sure that you are getting both those vaccines, because if you only get one, you will likely be protected, but only for a smaller percentage, and you don't want to take that risk. We've tested these vaccines, the larger public health and health research community, and this is the way they work, and this is the way they've been designed. So yes, if you get Pfizer or Moderna, please get both vaccines. If you, for some reason, are not able to make your second appointment, make another appointment. They will work with you. But get the number of doses that the vaccine requires, because otherwise you may think you're protected and you're not anywhere near as protected as you want to be.
And I just want to add quickly to that, Dr. Guidry, that please understand that after you get either the 1 dose or the 2 dose, you still have to wait a period of time before you're fully vaccinated, before your body fully understands what needs to happen in order for you to operate in the world. And so for some, that's 14 days, for others, 28 days. So just also understand what that path looks like for your body to do the wonderful thing that it needs to do to keep you protected moving forward. So I just wanted to make sure we added that component as well.
Yeah, really good points. So make sure, after you get either your 1 dose or your 2 doses, depending on the vaccine, they will give you instructions. And in some cases, it's 2 weeks. In some cases, it's 3 to 4 weeks. You have waited a long time for this. Just keep that in mind. We've all been waiting a long time for this. The fact that we have these vaccines available is, to me, nothing short of a miracle. Wait those extra few weeks and make sure you're fully protected. Give your body the chance to fully take the class, to get the diploma, to understand this is what I need to do. And it's remarkable how it's designed, that this really can teach your body how to fight this disease that we've lost so many people to. So don't lose out on the efficacy because you leave the house and go do things 1 week too soon. Just take these last few weeks. These are the last times, and even within that, it's going to be a little while before we can do everything again.
Yeah, those are great points. Thanks, Natalie and Jeanine. So we've talked a little bit about the safety of the vaccines and a little bit about the vaccines in general. We're hearing a lot of people are excited about getting their vaccines, but they're having a hard time getting them. So I want to talk a little bit about how we could have access to the vaccine. So I was going to ask you, Natalie, how and where can someone get a vaccine?
Well, I first and foremost want to say that, it's just amazing, like Jeanine was saying, that we're at this point. History has often taught us that we have never been able to get to this point so quickly. And so sometimes we need to pause and relish in the fact that we're at this point and we're doing a great job, right? And so however that system looks like now. With that said, because we have not been at that point this quickly before, it is going to take a little while for our systems to get acclimated to the speed in which we got this done. And so at our federal level and our state levels, they're doing, in the new administration as well as in our state agencies, they're doing all that they can to make sure that every person who would like access to a vaccine can get access to it. So I will say they're working in tandem and they're working side by side in order to promote access in different layers of communications across the state. I'll speak a little bit more to the local efforts, but in general, if people would like a vaccine, the state has set up a website so that you can get one. It's vaccinate.virginia.gov. Again, that's vaccinate.virginia.gov. It allows for you to really look at who's eligible at what time, get pre-registered for it, and then to make sure that you are connected with when that time comes for you to actually get access to the vaccine. The state has done a tremendous job of partnering with different organizations across the state in order to enhance access. This Virginia Department of Health cannot do this work alone. They have always said that. Dr. Avula, who is heading up this effort across the state, who actually is of this area, he comes out of Richmond. He's the director for the Henrico and Richmond health districts, have often said that they need the partners at the table in order to make sure every person in this state gets access to vaccines. And so because they have done strategic partnerships across the state, you can start with that particular website to get registered, and they connect you with a place in which you can get vaccinated. But those individual partners sometimes have additional processes that you can take in order to get vaccinated. I work at the VCU Health Hub at 25th, and the VCU Health System is doing community vaccinations at the Health Hub in of itself, and that process in of itself looks slightly different. And so for us, we make sure that you know what to do at a state level, but also what you need to do in order to access vaccinations with us. And then there's other community partners, like in the community in of itself, we have not only our health departments, we have big box pharmacies, we have some faith-based organizations that are working with the Virginia Department of Health. We have independent pharmacies like Hope Pharmacy. We have and a number of others like Bonds of Course is doing some work as well. So it's about plugging in where you can get in. When Jeanine talked about before, get the vaccine that's available to you. We want everybody to hear that message. We want to make sure that everybody is vaccinated at the first moment that you can actually be vaccinated. And that may be at a number of different places in the community. But first, I would say start with that vaccinate.virginia.gov. First, start there, and then we can connect you to some other places as necessary. But our health departments and our agencies across the state are just doing tremendous work in order to do that. I will let you know that yesterday, if you're in the Richmond and Henrico area, they did release for our seniors, which has some additional layers because they were one of the first batch of people that had access to vaccination. If they are having issues with getting online or navigating any of the website, they can call 804-205-3501, which is the health district's call center, and have a vaccination appointment scheduled over the phone instead, if that is something that is a little bit more appealing to you. So there's different avenues and ways in which for people to connect and get access to a vaccination.
Thanks, Natalie. And also, could you talk a little bit more about access issues and how people can overcome them? Specifically, maybe people who may have transportation issues, and how can we eliminate some of those barriers that they may have?
Sure. So, it's a number of different reasons that people don't have access to vaccination. Just like I will say, it overlays with a number of different reasons why we don't have access to a lot of different things like healthcare, to, food, to housing. So all of these different things overlay and sometimes play in intersections of each other. But when we're talking about vaccinations, currently, I will say that there is an abundance of access at this time. It's just making sure that you're in the right lane to get your vaccination at this time. Right now, we're in the upper parts of 1B. And so if you're having any issues with that, like I said, you can go through the state agency's website. You can also connect to some of our local organizations, and we will walk you through what that process is to get that to get the appointment. And then let's say you have a transportation issue. A lot of our partners across the state and across the city are doing all that they can to make sure they mitigate some of those things. GRTC, in partnership with the city of Richmond, just announced that they will be giving rides to people who would like to be vaccinated. I saw recently on social media that Uber is doing a lot of work in order to connect some people. I don't know if that's in this local area, but they're doing it strategically in other cities. And so that may expand. I would say also talk to some of our faith-based organizations are working with their congregants to make sure they have transportation to where they need to in order to be vaccinated. So I think a lot of different efforts are being taken place in order for people to be connected to transportation, to be also connected to making sure they talk to their PCPs about what it looks like for them as an individual. We also talk about, comorbidities are a real thing. Nobody stopped having heart attacks. Nobody stopped having high blood pressure and all these other things during this time. And this is just an overlaid process that we're doing in order to mitigate some of the health concerns that we have. And so I always tell our community neighbors to talk with their PCPs if they have any outlying issues or anything before they move forward with that process. And then from there, sometimes their PCP, if they have a nurse navigator, or like in our center, we have a community health worker. In some of the hospital systems, they have outreach workers that will help navigate people through any of those barriers to get them access to vaccination, or to get them actually to the vaccinating site. And so you have different places and different resources that you can do from there. As far as overall barriers, there's a number of different reasons why people may encounter a barrier to getting a vaccine. But I would only hope in this particular day and age, with all of the different resources, all of the people who are really sewing into the effort of everyone being vaccinated that wants to be vaccinated, that those barriers will be eliminated quite quickly as they walk through them. And so I would say, as for right now, a lot of our community partners have really diverted a lot of their time, energy, and human capacity, human capacity to get people the access that they need and eliminate any barriers that they may come across as they're trying to get vaccinated.
Great, thanks so much, Natalie. So one of the questions that I'm hearing a lot from the people who have been vaccinated, and they're really excited that they finally, had access to the vaccine, but they want to know, well, what can I do now? And I know the question that's on everyone's mind are about masks. Do they still need to wear them? So Jeanine, can you talk to us a little bit about if people still have to wear a mask after they get their vaccine?
So the first thing is what Natalie mentioned a few minutes ago. First, anything about guidelines for this only works after you've been fully vaccinated. And fully vaccinated means that you've had either if it's a 2-dose vaccine, you've had both doses. It's a 1-dose vaccine, you've had the dose. And the general guidance of the CDC right now is that you wait at least 2 weeks after that second dose, the final dose, whether it's 1 or 2, before you can consider yourself fully vaccinated. So please, I know it's very exciting. There's great hope in this. Let's not lose track of this now in the last few weeks. Secondly, there are some things that have changed. So once you are fully vaccinated, you can gather indoors, this is the CDC guidance, with other fully vaccinated people without wearing a mask. But realize this is a limitation, right? Indoors with other fully vaccinated people. You can gather indoors with other unvaccinated people from one other household without wearing a mask, but you cannot do that if any of those people are higher risk groups to get COVID and to have more serious consequences of COVID. So older people with pre-existing conditions, still wear a mask around them, please, and have them wear a mask. And I think the other thing, what hasn't changed is, and this I think is something that tends to be a little bit discouraging to people, until we reach herd immunity. And herd immunity is anywhere between 75 and 85% of the community being vaccinated. Still take steps to protect yourself outside of the vaccine. Wear a mask, socially distance, avoid crowds, avoid poorly ventilated spaces. We need to keep this up a little bit longer. And again, the vaccines work. They will protect you. We just have to make sure that they also protect other people that haven't been vaccinated yet. So in general, when you are outside of your house or out that one family that you may be interacting with, still wear a mask, still socially distance. But you are able to gather a little bit more with other fully vaccinated people. And believe me, I have marked on my calendar when I am fully vaccinated, and I have a plan to get together with one of my best friends who is also one of my colleagues and who also will be fully vaccinated by that point. And we are going to have a work session because that's what we do. And we haven't been able to do that in person. So we're gonna get there, and you can get a little bit more freedom, but please, still beware that you need to be able to protect people who haven't been vaccinated yet.
So one of the things I'm really looking forward to do is finally being able to dine out. So Jeanine, can you talk a little bit about if it's safe for fully vaccinated people to dine out?
Well, that kind of goes with the guidelines, right? Other fully vaccinated people, you don't know that everyone in that restaurant is going to be fully vaccinated. So until the point that we are as a community fully vaccinated to the point of herd immunity, go with the guidelines that are out there. So if a restaurant is able to have outside dining with, say, 30% of its capacity, stick to the same rules that go for everybody else. And I would say especially for a restaurant, because you can wear your mask into the restaurant and out of the restaurant and while you're reading the menu, but while you eat, you are not wearing your mask. So I would still stick to the guidelines. It's going to take a little bit longer before we get there, but we're going to get there. And again, this is why, like Natalie was saying, we have a lot more capacity right now to vaccinate people. Let's get people vaccinated, and then take a little bit extra time, and let's enjoy all the other freedoms that we will have. They will come back, but let's make sure we're all fully protected. So that it may not be the great news of go out and get a reservation tonight. Stick with the rules that are out there right now, but in-house, so having other people who are fully vaccinated over for dinner, for example, that you can do, and then get takeout to support the restaurants in our area.
Great, thanks. That is encouraging but it's still good for us to hear the advice that we still need to be cautious and safe until others are vaccinated as well and we reach herd immunity. So thanks, Jeanine. So I want to shift gears from talking about COVID-19 vaccine specifics and talk a little bit about how health educators and those working with patients can communicate reliable COVID-19 information to people when there's so much misinformation around COVID-19 and also around the COVID-19 vaccinations. And I know we talked a little bit about this in the part 1 of communicating COVID, but I want to talk about it more specifically to the COVID-19 vaccines. And Natalie, I wanted to ask you to describe to us the historical distrust with scientific information in our communities.
Oh, well, it's been over time, there's been a lot of different reasons. Keith, could you bring up slide 11? I want to reference that McDonald and the Sage Group did a wonderful job of laying out the different components of hesitancy and why that looks the way it does. So you have confidence, you have complacency, and you have convenience. And each one of these outlines different reasons why people tend to be hesitant when it comes to vaccination. When you overlay that with people's lived experience, with historical reasons why they've had interactions at either a hospital, or they look at historical scientific experiments, or when they look at limited access due to maybe some institutional or systematic reasons. There's a lot of different reasons that compound each other as far as why people hesitate and why they don't want to receive a vaccine when one is available at the immediate time. I always tell people, when we look at these 3 groups and we look at people's lived experience, it really is about how can you create relationships with people in communities so that we can overcome some of that hesitancy. And then not necessarily to invalidate it, because everyone's experience is a valid experience. It's about making sure we understand what is the root of the problem. Why are they hesitant? What can we do to provide additional information, additional support from people that they trust, that they can relate to, that they can understand, in order to gain the information necessary to make the best possible decision for themselves as an individual and for their community and their family. And so for us, what we try to do when we encounter people who have some historical distrust of vaccinations in general, because it didn't just start with the COVID-19 vaccination, you have some pockets of the population that have a historical distrust of the flu shot. And so what does that look like? How can we overcome it? And again, it's about having a conversation with a competent and at the same time confident professional or family member about what that looks like. And then moving forward with their decision. I always tell people it is a personal decision. It is a very personal decision to be vaccinated. And we want to make sure you have every possible access to the information necessary to make that well-informed decision. Right now, we have a couple of programs that are going on internal to VCU Health, as well as to across VCU, and actually at VDH, they're doing some ambassadors and some champions so that you can learn more about what is happening with it, particularly the COVID-19 vaccination. And you could sign up for one of those groups and just learn. You would not have to do anything else. And you could just learn all the additional information, any of the cutting edge information that's coming out about the vaccine, about vaccination efforts, about access. You can learn all of that information. But what you can also do is share that information. Share it in your network, in your tribe, in your circle. Of people to say, hey, I read this, I heard this, I watched a wonderful webinar like this one and gained some additional information. And I want to share that with the people that I love, to say, hey, I know historically we have had this experience, but during this time, I feel that this is happening and these are the reasons why. And I think having more conversations like that, having more opportunities for our community neighbors to engage in those kinds of initiatives, as well as gain that kind of information at a personal level, at a speed in which they prefer, and then opening it up for them to go and have those one-on-one conversations with those that they love and the community members and the neighbors that they encounter every single day. It's the biggest strategy for overcoming hesitancy. We can put as much scientific information out there in the world, but if you cannot connect to someone that you care about or that you understand or that you trust, really hard to overcome those things. So when you looked at those 3 C's, every last one of them referenced making sure that clear understanding, underlying relationships are also built to overcome that hesitancy. When we look at the historical reasons, which are valid and some are true, some are not. We will also recognize that. But we also want to make sure that people have the information that they need, that they're sharing it in the circles that really are meaningful for them, and that if they would like to take that next step to share it with their community or a larger community, that they also have access to the resources, the organizations, and the professionals in order to do that. So hopefully that answers why we have hesitancy, but also what we can do to address some of that hesitancy.
Great, thanks so much, Natalie. So there's so much information being disseminated now about COVID vaccines. We hear about it everywhere, from family, friends, news, radio, social media. There's not a day that goes by that I don't get on Facebook and see something about the vaccine, some type of information about it. But there's also a lot of mis and disinformation about the COVID vaccines. So Jeanine, can you talk to us about the definitions of mis and disinformation? Just refresh us on that. And then also talk to us about how strategies that we can use to combat misinformation and disinformation that's being spread about the COVID vaccines.
Absolutely. So misinformation and disinformation are both incorrect information, but misinformation is incorrect information that's spread inadvertently. It's spread non-intentionally. People are not aware that it's incorrect information. Disinformation is incorrect information that is spread intentionally. So people know that this is not correct information, and for any number of reasons, they spread it. This is mostly from an organizational perspective that will happen. In the end, the result is the same, right? It can be something that really affects people as far as their trust in the vaccine. And Keys, if you could bring up slide number 10. There are, actually go to slide number 9 first. I changed my mind for a second. I think it's important to understand how we got here. What makes misinformation and disinformation? And I'm going to just use the term misinformation and understand that it covers both. What makes us so susceptible to this right now? I think number one, and this is not exclusive, but this is the first true social media pandemic in a time of a lot of online communication. Yes, we had the H1N1 pandemic. That was in 2009, and that's an eternity ago as far as online activities and platforms that are out there. In addition, we've all found ourselves quarantining, sheltering in place, staying at home, working from home, kids doing schooling from home. We spend a lot of time from home in general. And for many of us, home is where the internet lives and where our access to the internet lives. And so we have an environment of great uncertainty. And remember, this is a novel virus. This is a virus that we didn't know exactly how it was going to work, what it was going to do, and how we were going to have to fight it when the pandemic first started. So you take all that together with increased access online, with uncertainty. And so as human beings, we want solutions. We want to know, when can I hug my grandparents again? When can my kids go back to school? When can I restart my business? Can I restart my business? I think some of the practical things is, do you know, one of the most common and best working preventives for COVID-19 is washing your hands 20 seconds at a time, soap and water. By the way, 20 seconds is longer than what I thought it was. When I started timing myself, I think I washed my hands for 6 seconds at a time. So sing happy birthday twice and not too fast, and you're approaching the 20-second mark. Well, in addition to washing your hands for 20 seconds, wait 20 seconds or maybe 2 minutes before you share things that you see online, especially things that are related to potential cures, potential preventions. You know, eating garlic protects you from COVID. No, it doesn't. If you like garlic, that's a good thing. If your digestive system can handle it, please cook with garlic, but it's not going to protect you against COVID. Bleach, ingesting bleach is damaging. Not only does it not protect you against COVID, it will harm you. It may actually kill you. And so before you share something like that, no matter how great it is to share something that you think may be a solution, Just wait and evaluate it. In addition, now we're at a point where we have vaccines. So if you're going to share something, share the vaccine. Share that's available. Share information that's reliable. Keys, if you can go to slide number 10. Here are just some basic principles for addressing misinformation, but also on communicating with people who may be hesitant to receive the vaccine. Find out why people are concerned. People can be concerned for any number of. They may be concerned that the vaccine is not safe, or they may be concerned that it doesn't work, or they may be concerned that it was developed too quickly, or they may be concerned that it's going to cost money and their insurance is not going to cover it, or they don't have insurance. Those are all reasons, or they may not know how to get to a place where to get the vaccine. So people may have different concerns, and I think it's really important when you communicate with someone, find out what their concerns are, because then you can specifically address that concern. I think the other thing is using credible sources. So I'm a public health researcher, so the credible sources that I always recommend are the State Department of Health, VDH, the CDC, the World Health Organization, VCU Health, the Health Hub. Those are credible sources of information. Sometimes, though, people are not as likely to trust some of these credible sources of information. And if they don't, for whatever reason, find other trusted messengers. Religious leaders, pastors, bishops, other faith traditions, educational leaders, neighborhood leaders. Find trusted messengers that someone will hear, because a messenger can be absolutely perfect in the information they give. If someone's not going to listen, it's still not going to help. I think the other thing is being honest. Yes, these vaccines are a miracle. They work. They have an efficacy that is really high. They work really well, in other words. There are very few serious side effects, but there are minor side effects. And actually, in fact, most of us will probably have minor side effects. If nothing else, your arm will get sore. So be honest about that. I've heard some people say it has no side effects. This is a perfect vaccine. No, it is a vaccine that's close to perfect, but it does have some minor side effects, and they go away. They go away after 12 hours, 24 hours. Be honest about that. I think the other thing is, if someone is concerned, express empathy. We're all in this. This has been a really hard year. We've all been scared. We've all lived in an environment of uncertainty that I think our ability to process that just it's really been stretched. So express empathy. Hey, I understand you're concerned about this. I get it. It's been a rough year. But you know what? This is the way we're going to get out of this. This truly, for the first time, I think we can say, we're going to get through this. And I think the last two things I would recommend is, number one, show respect. People are vulnerable. And if people express concerns about something like the vaccine, they're being vulnerable. So respect that. And that's important. And that goes with everything that we try to communicate. Treat everyone like the human being that they are. Treat people with compassion. But then finally, Natalie was mentioning this earlier. This is a story of hope. This is a story of really tremendous hope. We have a way to reach herd immunity. We have a way to conquer this virus to where it will not kill those that we love. It will not make people sick to the horrible degree we've seen that happen. So that's a tremendous hope. We couldn't say that a year ago. We couldn't say it 6 months ago. We didn't have the vaccines yet. And so the area of hope of saying, you know what, Dana, I may not recommend that you go to a restaurant where that is at 100% capacity next week. But I can tell you, we're going to get back to being able to hug and to hang out and to spend time together. We're going to be celebrating holidays together again. Now, I can't tell you what holiday that will be without some of the limitations that we've been living with, but we will be celebrating holidays together again. We will be able to hug our grandparents, our children, our family members. We will be able to reach out again. And that is a story of tremendous hope. And I think some of that, be honest, address questions people have, but also, like champions and ambassadors, tell the story of hope. And I think that is the thing, to tell stories. We can tell statistics about efficacy all day long. As a public health professional, I love them. But you know what people hear? People listen to stories. People listen to Natalie saying, I got vaccinated and it was a tremendous relief. I feel safer now that I'm going to be able to be around the people that I love. Dana, I'm going to be able to go out and to spend time with people. And yes, right now I'm still going to need to wear a mask, but that time is coming to an end as well. That are stories of hope, and that is experiences. Share those experiences, because those are things that people are going to be more likely to listen to.
Oh, thanks, Jeanine. That definitely gives us all hope for the future. We could just hold off for just a little bit more time and have that hope, and just keep doing those things to prevent spreading COVID, and getting vaccinated. And so I wanted to also, I know you touched on this when you were talking about how to combat misinformation. Can you also provide us some more tips on how to communicate with those who may be hesitant to receive the vaccine?
I think it comes down to person-to-person communication. I think that is one of the most powerful things we can do. And again, like finding out why people are concerned. It's a very different thing. If someone's concerned, hey, this vaccine was developed really quickly. That's true. That's absolutely true. It was developed very quickly. But fortunately, that does not mean it's not safe. And so being able to figure out, why is someone concerned, and can I provide an answer to that? And if I can't, can I refer them to someone and say, you know what, I have a friend who works at, I have a friend who is a physician, I have a friend who is a nurse practitioner, I have a friend who works at the health hub. Let me refer you to someone that can give some answers to this. And again, I think that we have a tendency in our society right now to communicate online. And in part, that is, we haven't seen a lot of people in real life, because we've been isolating and we have been trying to stay safe and keep other people safe. I am a huge fan of digital media. It's what I do for a lot of my job and my research and my teaching. But if you know someone online and you also know them in real life, I would highly recommend communicating one-on-one with them. When it's so easy to misunderstand something, to misconstrue something. And also, when you put things online, it's that genie is never getting back into the bottle. That is just that you can't take those things back. So I would say, let's, yes, share reliable information online, but share this person to person, and realize that the person you're talking to has been just as scared and just as nervous and just as frustrated with all the things we've been going through, and realize that this hasn't been 2 weeks or 2 months. This has been more than a year now. And explaining those things, I think the humanity of it all may be our best way to communicate with people who are hesitant. And like Natalie's saying, this is a personal choice. So emphasize that you get to make a choice, but let me tell you why I am making the choice I'm making. And is there anything I can clarify for you? Is there anything I can, oh, you're concerned it was developed too quickly. Let me share with you, really, that's not the case. But I can understand that that's something that you would think, because I've thought that myself. I think that level of communication is always helpful, and validate the fact that people are concerned. If someone's concerned there's a chip in the vaccine, by the way, there isn't, there's no chip in the vaccine. But if someone's really concerned about that, I can understand that they're scared. So I think that validation of others' concerns and of each other as human beings is it's worth more, I think, a lot of time than what we give it credit for.
And so, Natalie, I wanted to ask you, what are some of the strategies we can use in the communities we serve to share reliable information to community members?
Well, I'll give you the technical one first, and that is to go to sources that actually have that designation of being reliable, right? Like, so you have VCU libraries, you have some of our scientific communities, you have our professionals, our doctors, our nurses, people who have been practicing in this space for a while, who have gathered information, who understand what it means to gather that information and how to disseminate that information in a more reliable way, to make sure you're going to like Medline Plus for certain things. So that technical, one-on-one information coming from reliable, trained people is important, right? And so you have that component of it as well as any documents that you can pull down from the CDC or VDH or other things like that. Those are reliable sources of information. But other ways in which people can do that goes back to what we talked about before. It's about that relationship building. It's about finding people that you trust, that you know have been tuned in to that information, to those reliable sources of information, or at least know how to navigate those systems. Because not everybody is going to be a Dr. Guthrie, not everybody's going to be a Fauci, right? We have a Dr. Wen. We have so many like amazing people across our networks that have been just at the forefront of disseminating information in really reliable ways. But when you talk about talking to your grandmother, or when you talk about talking to an uncle or a sister or a neighbor or a childhood friend, or just somebody that you truly adore on a day-to-day basis, or just somebody that you encounter on a regular basis, which could be at work, it's about making sure that you tap into those systems where you don't know those answers, and that you can also pass along reliable sources of information to the people that you love yourself. And they can do that by, coming to one of those reliable sources like the library, the VCU Health Hub, or going to one of those experts, signing on to the vaccinate.virginia.gov. They can do all of those things, but also you can bring them along on the journey and say, hey, I want to learn just as much as you want to learn. Let's connect to someone that we know is going to give us that information. Let's connect into a system that we know is really invested in making sure we have the information regarding vaccination, but having just information in general about our health and how we can be successful at what we're doing. So it's just multiple ways in which people can do this, and do this honestly, do it authentically, but also create communication strategies that really serve them and serve the families that they're in the circles and the tribes that they're a part of. I always say to people, the best information that you can possibly give is the information from someone that you love in a reliable way, or someone that you care deeply about. And that could be you ride the bus every single day, and the bus driver has made a tremendous influence on your life, and you trust the bus driver. So you can ask that person, hey, did you get vaccinated? If so, where did you get vaccinated? How did you learn about it? That's a trusted source at that time, because that person is really vested in you being successful. And so it's making sure that we don't grab anything, right? Dr. Gertrude talked about that. We're not on social media just grabbing any kind of information from any kind of resource, but it's making sure we trust people to have our best interest in mind as we find reliable information. That's one strategy that we can take. And the other one, like I talked about before, is tapping into those resources that we know historically are just reliable in nature. That's our libraries, that's our professionals, some of our organizations and agencies that exist to share information in a reliable mechanism. So making sure we do all of those things, all of those strategies will help us to communicate more effectively, more efficiently, and more lovingly across our communities.
Yeah, and if I may add something, because now this is so true, and I think what's hitting me with this is anyone that's listening to this, you can make a difference. Mm-hmm. You may very well be the trusted source. And so if you reach one person or two people and they get vaccinated because they trust you and your story, you may have saved their life. That's just all there's to it. And I think that is an incredibly empowering thing. For a long time in this pandemic, there's been very little we could do. Just wear a mask, stay away from other people, wash your hands. Okay, those are all isolating things. They make us feel further apart. Now we have something that we can communicate that will not just manage this pandemic, but will get us out of it. And so if you're listening to this, you may be the best person to communicate with that other person you encounter. So please do that. Be a vaccine champion, be a vaccine ambassador. I think we've all been affected by this. We need all of us to get out of this.
Well, thank you both so much for all of this useful information that you have provided us today about the COVID-19 vaccines that we can use to make informed decisions. And I also want to thank Jeanine and Natalie for all the wonderful work they are doing for their communities and for being here to talk with us today. And thanks to everyone who attended. I hope this discussion will help you. And also, if you still have any questions about the COVID-19 vaccines, we do have a library guide through the Health and Wellness Library. So Keys, if you want to put up the slide of the guide, slide 2. So this library guide, it focuses on COVID-19, general information about COVID-19, links to reliable, trustworthy consumer sources of information from the CDC, Medline Plus, also local resources from the Virginia Department of Health, and contains a lot of information too for finding out how to cope during COVID-19, resources that you can use if you've been laid off from work or need transportation to vaccines, so those types of local resources. And then there's also a section on that guide specifically about the COVID-19 vaccine. So information of eligibility criteria, information where you can get the vaccines as well, and links to frequently asked questions. So if you had other questions that we didn't cover today, this COVID-19 Live Guide is an excellent source of information. You can also contact us at the Health and Wellness Library. We have the contact information up on the screen now. The Health and Wellness Library is a library for patients, their family members, and anyone in the community to turn to for trusted sources of consumer health information. So we can help you find information about any type of health-related topic. So if you've been newly diagnosed with diabetes, or getting ready to have a surgery and want to learn more about it, or if you have a question about COVID-19 or the vaccines, you can call us or email us at the email address on that slide. Our physical space is currently closed at this time, but we are monitoring the phones and email, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible with any questions. We're also providing regular health and wellness library programs. You can look at our Facebook page or our webpage for the schedule of upcoming programs. So thank you again to our panelists for being here today and talking with us and sharing thoughts about this important topic of vaccines. Also, I want to thank my co-facilitator, Oscar Keys, who helped make this panel discussion possible, and he's been working behind the scenes this entire time. So thank you so much, Keys. And thank you to VCU Libraries for supporting this panel discussion. Thank you for joining us and have a wonderful day. Goodbye, everyone.